Good evening. I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order on June 14th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. We do have attendance remotely as well as councilors here in the chamber. I will begin the meeting by taking a roll call for attendance. Councilor Dumas.
Councilor Dumas is present.
Councilor Tenera.
Councilor Tenera is present.
Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram is present.
Councilor Pearlman.
Councilor Pearlman is present.
And Councilor Iris is present. Thank you, councilors. We have 7 items this evening on the agenda. We have an amendment to Chapter 67, Section 26.1. We have an FY 2022 revolving fund spending limits, a year-end transfer request, as well as a transfer request to fund the FY 2022 MEDC operating budget. With that, I will begin with the first item, order number 21-100, 83803, proposed city code amendment to Chapter 67 Finance, Section 26.1. Departmental revolving funds to establish a water and sewer revolving fund and to amend the spending purposes for the public safety revolving fund. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Do you want to fill anything on that, sir?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to take time to go, we can go through each one, whichever is easy to feel, however you want to do it.
Okay.
You want to just talk about the first one there?
The first one for the amendment of it.
So this is actually a new revolving fund. Wait a minute. This is the public safety one. I'm sorry. This is the public safety. Oh, this is the water and sewer, establishing the water and sewer fund. All right.
And then amending.
Now I know where I am. All right. This is a new fund that we've asked to have set up, taking the entrance fees that we now have for the water and sewer hookups and putting it in a revolving fund for the purposes of working on some of our I&I issues throughout the city. There's a substantial amount of seepage going into our pipes that we really need to resolve. It's going to be substantial costs over the years, and this is a way to kind of salt away some money to take care of this issue rather than hitting us for bonds along the way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will open up to the Finance Committee if any members have any questions. Councilor Oram.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Through you to the mayor. Just curious on the I&I infiltration inflow. Where are we with that? Do we have an estimate of how much we may be involved with cost? What type of cost are we looking at for I&I?
Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars, okay.
And it's really been brought to the forefront because of some of the new businesses that are coming to town, going to discharge more water than we have in the past. So it's been brought to, to my attention, and Mr. Percio and the commissioner have been working on this. But we're talking millions of dollars to resolve this.
Are we seeing inflow in older sections of town, or are we seeing it more in the within the city? I mean, within the city?
All yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. DePercio. Didn't mean to put you on the hot seat, but I've dealt with I&I in another town I used to work in, and I know, as the mayor just said, it can get in the millions. Are we seeing a lot of infiltration issues within a certain area of the city, or are we seeing it throughout?
Yep, there's been several studies done across the city over the past, say, 15 years. The older parts of the city where the pipes are older are more prone to that. Marlborough also has a lot of major trunk lines that go through wetland areas and swamps, and so those are some of the areas too that we're seeing a lot of the infiltration.
And if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, one more question, either for the mayor or for Mr. DePercio, and that would be, are we being forced at this time by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection to upgrade any of our infiltration issues?
So every town is required to have ongoing work in that regard, so there's no extra consent order or anything like that, but we are required. And we have been doing, there's been several projects that we have done over the past few years that have taken care of some of that issue.
And just, so we've been required in the past to do this, do we know like what we spent the last 2 years on inflow infiltration?
No, one of the biggest projects that has been done in the past few years was as part of the Apex development. We required them to reroute, that was one of the major trunk lines that went along the Millham Brook right through the swamp. That developer built essentially a parallel trunk line outside of that. So that's an example of a big project that the developer did.
Good. So we are trying to get, when we see development, have them help out with
Absolutely.
the share of the work for
Yep.
inflow infiltration. Thank you. I know it's a big project,
Yep.
and I think the city residents, you'll see they discuss how the water rate's going up and the sewer rates, but unfortunately, the infrastructure is getting old, and not just here in Marlborough, everywhere. And we are forced by EPA, DEP to make sure we reduce that, because we're just throwing basically water away, as well as we don't want to be sending wetland water down to our sewer treatment plant. So that's why these costs are so great. And I think the revolving fund obviously will help to capture some of that. And I'm not against the request, I'm just wanted to have a little discussion on it. So I thank you, Mr. DePercio, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, and just one follow-up, this will be a way that we can have a lot of those projects queued up in a way that we can kind of just keep them going, put them out to bid as we get money in the revolving account. So I think this will be really helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Engineer DePercio. Any further questions from the Finance Committee? Any questions from the rest of the council? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Doucette, apologize.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I think that this is a good step forward. So you don't see this, well, you see the money coming from this actually going directly to address the issues. We're not looking at almost like a seed capital with some of this comes from this fund and some may come from the city, or is that still going to be an option?
Well, this will not cover our sewer projects moving forward. It'll help in allocating money out for the sewer projects moving forward. But we'll still be appropriating additional funds and additional bonds, and those will be recaptured by the sewer fees and the water fees.
Okay.
So it's being paid by the water and sewer people at this point.
Okay, so this will address some of the projects that will be put in the schedule, plus there'll be others that we'll still bond out for and address with other sources of funding.
Right, but I mean, this year our infrastructure bond, where we spent about $7 million, we're starting with $0 here.
Sure.
And we'll be taking in money as we move forward with projects. So as projects come in, they're hit with a charge from the DPW that will go in a fund to start helping us bring additional money that will be dedicated just for some of those issues. But remember, as we replace lines going forward and have replaced lines in the past,
Sure.
it's still helping this issue. This is just a dedicated fund for that.
Right. Do you see any changes in the connection fees?
We've talked about the change in the connection fees moving forward to address this, and I'll ask the Commissioner or Tom to.
So for the most part, the connection fees are set up now such that for a lot of the major developments that are going to be putting the most flows, like multifamily housing developments, our fees are structured such now that they pay a hefty amount of entrance fees. Mm-hmm. What I see maybe as being a request is on the commercial side, some of these bio manufacturing buildings. I see maybe looking at an additional fee for that type of use that kind of brings it in line with the flows that
would be expected from that.
Expected from that. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That is your question, Councilor Doucette?
Yep.
Any further discussion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and on this one, council will be, motion to approve to establish the water sewer revolving fund and to amend the spending purposes for the public safety revolving fund.
As so noted by the chair.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? And 0 opposed, so that carries 5-0. Thank you, councilors. The next item is order number 21-100-8304A, that no more than $350,000 shall be expended from the Parks and Recreation Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022 unless authorized by the City Council and the Mayor. And that's multiple spending revolving funds, so I'm going to start by reading the letter submitted by the Mayor. Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review an order to set spending limits on the city's 4 revolving funds, pending the approval of the added water and sewer revolving account that is separate item on tonight's agenda. The additional 3 revolving funds are Parks, Recreation, Council on Aging, and Public Safety. I'm requesting approval for expenditures from each of the revolving funds not to exceed the following amounts. Parks and Recreation Revolving Fund, $350,000. Council on Aging Revolving Fund, $70,000. Public Safety Revolving Fund, $120,000, and Water Sewer Revolving Fund, $500,000, pending City Council approval. Our department heads will be available to discuss any questions and speak in greater detail. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Okay,
Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, this is really an annual one that comes down to you to approve the expenditures moving forward. Parks and Recreation revolving account of $350,000. The Public Safety revolving account that we use for public safety training, $120,000, which is approximately what we take in every year. $70,000 for the Council on Aging, and $500,000 for the new Water and Sewer revolving fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll open up to any questions from the Finance Committee. Any to the rest of the council? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to get clarification on the Department of Public Works. The available balance, it says it's $363,370. Is that part of the revolving fund, or is for Parks and Recreation?
Say that one again?
Parks and Recreation is supposed to be $350,000, but in the Department of Public Works, the Parks and Recreation revolving account shows an available balance of $363,000. So is it? I can understand why it would be higher this year because of COVID last year, the lack of activities. But I'm just looking for more for clarification. Is the balance, actually under $350,000, or is it $363,000?
Mr.
Well,
Chair.
this is the cap that they can spend out of that account on an annual basis. If the money's not there, they can't spend it, so.
Right, well, it looks like they have more money, that's why I'm asking, because.
Yeah, but it's moving forward. We're not looking to empty the accounts. They're revolving accounts, so
Okay.
any money that's not spent gets rolled over into the next year as long as
Right.
you appropriate the approval to spend it out of that.
Right, but, okay, the order said for Parks and Recreation, no more than $350,000. It looks like it's $363,000. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right.
Yeah. Can I?
Misunderstanding
President.
the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I can help you out, Council Doucette. So what we do annually is approve a dollar limit that allows how much they spend. They take in money continuously all through the year. So what their current balance is $363,000. So they're starting fiscal year 22 with $363,000. They can spend $350,000 of that. They have to come back to us if they want to spend more, and they will continue to take in more money during the year. So all we're doing, because we have to annually, is approve how much they can spend. And the report that they attach to it tells us what they spent last year. So, so you look and say, okay, they spent $318,000 last year, but they've encumbered money that they haven't spent yet. Is that okay? And if it seems reasonable, it's good, but again, what we're asking the Finance Committee is, are you okay with the dollar limit for the Parks and Rec for fiscal year '22? That's what
Right.
we're asking.
Right, no, I was just wondering if it, is it the $350,000, amount that we're doing it, or is it the total available balance? I mean, this is all about COVID last year, that they didn't spend that much money. So they got
This
extra.
account, if you recall, 2 years ago, had over $1 million when we did the Stephen Street Park and stuff. I mean, we had a lot more money in it.
Okay.
And we've spent it, we've actually drawn it down to now it's basically floating year to year, which is good. We're taking in enough money to cover, well, if we don't take in the money, obviously they can't spend the funds. But again, all we're doing is approving the dollar limit for next year, and they just happen to have a balance going into next year of $363,000, which is good. I mean, that's a,
Yeah,
so
right, yeah, no, I'm not complaining about that amount, it's just clarification reference as far as the 350. But, okay, that's fair explanation, so that's fine.
Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion on this first one for the $350,000.
Motion to approve.
I will second that. Motion's been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8304A, that no more than $350,000 shall be expended from the Parks and Recreation Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022. All in favor? 0 opposed. It carries. Thank you, councilors. Next item is order number 21-100-8304B, that no more than $120,000 shall be expended from the Public Safety Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022, otherwise authorized by the City Council and the Mayor. Any questions on that one? I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion, I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded that no more than $120,000 shall be expended from the Public Safety Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022, otherwise authorized by the City Council. All in favor? Carries 5-0. Thank you, councilors. Next item is order number 21-100-8304C, that no more than $70,000 shall be expended from the Council on Aging Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022, unless otherwise authorized by the City Council and the Mayor. Any questions in regards to that one?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Counselor. I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8304C, that no more than $70,000 shall be expended from the City Council on Aging Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022. All in favor? Carries 5-0. Thank you, councilors. And the next one is order number 21-100-8304D, that no more than $500,000 shall be expended from the proposed Water and Sewer Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022, unless otherwise authorized by the City Council and the Mayor. Any questions in regards to that? I will entertain a motion.
I'll keep going at it, I guess. Motion to approve.
I will, thank you, Council. I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded on order number 21-100-8304D, that no more than $500,000 shall be expended from the proposed Water and Sewer Revolving Fund during the fiscal year 2022. All in favor? Carries 5-0. That will end, I believe we got all the ones in the revolving fund. Next item up is order number 21-100-8305. Communication from Mayor Vigent requesting transfers from the Departments of Public Works for $2,356,437.77, and the City Auditor for $55,475, totaling $2,411,912.77 to fund various accounts for the remainder of FY 2021, as outlined in the transfer sheets. Want to start, oh, sorry. Yeah. And while you do it, I'm gonna read the letter, sorry about that, I'll read the letter submitted by the mayor. Department, Honorable President Ossing and councilors, please find enclosed for your review and approval the year-end transfer request for the following departments. Department of Public Works, MIIA claim payment for the building damage at the compost building for $732,937.77 to be transferred into capital outlay compost building. Please see the attached letter from the Commissioner Sean Duvall regarding this item. Second item was a transfer request in the amount of $1,042,000 from undesignated fund to fund the snow and ice deficit for FY 2021. Third item was transfer request in the amount of $38,500 from undesignated fund to the open space stabilization account. Fourth item was transfer request in the amount of $543,000 from available funds to cover items in the attached letter from Commissioner Sean Duvall. And the next items was from the city auditor. First one was transfer request in the amount of $475 from Veterans Benefits to Veterans Director to fund a salary step increase for the Veterans Agent. Second item was a transfer request in the amount of $55,000 from various accounts to fund additional liability insurance for the Marlborough Public Library. These transfers are needed to fund accounts for the remainder of FY 2021. Our department heads will be available to discuss any answers and questions to speak greater detail on the upcoming Finance Committee meeting. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like I said, I'll have
Mike.
Your
Your mic, Mr. Mayor.
For his department. The majority of it is obviously the snow and ice that we do every year, but Mr. Commissioner?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, would you point me in the right direction on where to start here, or?
Where would you like to start? Maybe on the damage to the compost building? So that's funds that we were going to receive from an insurance claim.
Yes, yes. So those funds we have actually already received. And that was an insurance claim that we had for our compost building at the East Plant. If you've been back there, it's the largest of the buildings where our contractor, We Care, would compost municipal solid waste and sludge from our 2 treatment plants. That building was, I think, about 40 years old or so, in pretty tough shape. After We Care vacated that facility, we kind of took it over and we started using it for our own composting of our sludge. And we had a windstorm in March come through and basically blow the roof off. And so, to be expected to some degree, it was under the care and control of We Care. They didn't put a lot of maintenance money into it.
Thank you.
And so we filed a claim with the insurance company, and they awarded us approximately $732,000 for that loss.
And the next item was the snow and ice deficit, which, again, the DPW did an incredible job this year, as you always do. I always appreciate that. And we'll certainly going forward and see what other winters and things will be, but this wasn't as bad, but a little higher than a few years ago.
Right, right.
With overtime and operating costs.
Yes. And our costs continually rise, as you might imagine. And it's an extremely, variable item when it comes to snow and ice control. So, standard item that you've probably seen year to year.
Absolutely.
And most cities and towns do the same thing.
And then I will open it up to the committee if they have any particular question. Oh, Council Perman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to the Commissioner. Really appreciate the overview. I have a couple questions. The first is regarding the MWRA assessment. Is that an annual assessment, or is that something done every so many years?
So we have an annual assessment. It's basically the cost to the city to purchase the water. And we pay in the early part of the fiscal year, and then we have a true-up towards the end of the fiscal year. So that's what this transfer is for. is for the true-up based on actual usage.
Okay, and is that something that's typically budgeted for the year, or is there a reason why it's a separate transfer?
It's typically budgeted, but it's hard to know if MWRA makes a rate change or if we have some change in flow.
Okay, thank you. And then for some of the transfers, specifically the from accounts, are a lot of vacancies in positions? Are these ones that are no longer in need, or ones that we anticipate filling in the future, since there does seem to be several positions listed?
Yes, we certainly do want to fill those positions. Those positions being vacant were a casualty of COVID and having to be conservative. And I know that was a direction all departments took from the mayor's office to be very careful. And so we took that tack, and but certainly felt it by having a reduced workforce, and certainly intend to fill those positions essentially at this point in the calendar year, starting with FY22.
Okay, that's good to hear, just considering there seem to be a lot of variety of positions listed, so I imagine the work of your department never stops, and so there's a lot of hands to make that work happen. So thank you. No further questions at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Council Perlman. Council Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just have a comment on process. More than anything else, I support everything that's on here. But when I saw the check from the MIA, it was one of the bigger checks I've seen coming into the council. So, but it got me to think, as far as all the security issues and the data integrity issues, that going forward, we should redact the check numbers at the bottom of the checks going forward for the public documents, because these documents are available from the public, and that's the type of information that could be filtered for data security purposes. So we may want to consider doing that as far as changing the process goes. That's all I need to say. We can take it offline, but.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any further discussion?
Motion to approve?
I will second that. Motion has been made. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8305. Transfer request in the amount of $2,411,912.77 to fund various accounts for the remaining FY 2021 as outlined in the transfer sheet. Any further discussion? All in favor? It carries 5-0. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that brings us to the last item this evening, order number 21-100-8313, MEDC FY 2022 operating budget in the amount of $546,738. And I will read the letter submitted by the mayor. Oh.
Do we vote on the auditor's transfer?
Yes, that was included. Yep, that was included of the $2,411,000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will read the letter submitted by the mayor, Honorable President Ossing, and councilors. Please find enclosed for your review and approval a transfer request in the amount of $546,738 to fund the MEDC FY 2022 operating budget. Even through conditions of a pandemic, the MEDC has been successful in bringing in new businesses to our community. In 2020, over a dozen companies either moved to or expanded in Marlborough, filling 200,000 square feet of space, while adding 400 jobs to our city. In addition, the MEDC granted $130,000 to 33 small businesses, handed out over 30 bags with personal protective equipment, and purchased 25 barriers for downtown restaurants to support outdoor dining in Marlborough. Most recently, BJ's Wholesale Club announced plans to move their corporate headquarters to the campus, bringing over 800 jobs to Marlborough. We are fortunate to continue this trend, and as an instrumental in stabilizing the tax burden on our residents. All through the pandemic, MEDC continued with annual Marlborough Works job fair, connecting our residents with 19 employers hiring in Marlborough. They began directly connecting our students' population with our large employers by utilizing video technology. Enclosed for your review is the MEDC operating budget. Executive Director Meredith Harris looks forward to discussing this in more detail at a future Finance Committee meeting. Sincerely, Arthur G. Vigent, Mayor. Good evening, Director Harris, as well, and thank you for being here this evening. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you very much. Obviously, you're well familiar with the MEDC, and this year it morphed into something none of us ever expected. It was almost like a rescue agency where they reached out to a lot of the small businesses and provided information about the different federal and state grant programs. We had the opportunity ourselves through some of the money to put some of it out in the street by doing the boxes you see out front in front of Wellies or out back at the Lost Shoe, and it was just one more thing, and working with them and getting their facilities to serve outside. So the agency kind of moved into a different area, providing bags and sanitation and everything else. But through that whole thing, they always know their goal is to bring in and to continually to reach out to the business community to make sure, as they're expanding, to make sure they're expanding here and provide any services we can from the city side. And I think they've done a great job again this year. There were some surpluses in their balance sheet this year, and so even though their budget is a little bit higher than their request, they had about $125,000 in surplus in different areas, because obviously it changed how they were doing business a little bit. You get those updates with the financial statements and the minutes on a regular basis from the agency, so you know, you've probably already seen that, but we wanted to make sure they use some of that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Meredith, our Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Meredith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight. In addition to myself, Linda Martins, our Director of Operations, is also online with me to answer questions. As you all know, 2020 was a real difficult year for our business community, but at the MEDC, we were really happy to help not only the small business in the city through grants and assistance with things such as outdoor dining, as the Mayor just mentioned, but we were also thrilled to see growth in the medium to big size business community as well. We've been reflecting on the master plan recently, as it's been 10 years since that was done, and really looking forward to continuing our work on behalf of the city. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding our projects and initiatives or the budget request in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Harris. I will open it up to the Finance Committee if they haven't. Councilor Orem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably to Meredith and to her staff, thank you for what you've done through the pandemic. As the Mayor just said, you were kind of the group that captured what was needed to help the businesses, and they do appreciate it. And speaking with the businesses, they were very happy they could continue, especially with the outside dining. My couple questions I have. First, I noticed that the vacant position of Business Development Manager, what does that position do, and can that be covered by the present staff?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Orem. So that position really is for when we're back to a normal post-pandemic world, out really selling the city of Marlborough, doing business outreach. You know, a lot of that, you know, during COVID, we've been able to handle that with the staff in-house, but once we're back out, you know, going to different meetings and doing some of those site selector trips, you know, that's really where we're going to need that person to come back into play. And we are hoping, as things start to open up, that some of those conferences and trade shows and things will start to be back on our agenda in the near future.
So they actually help with the trade shows and so forth? Is that I was trying
Correct.
to figure out that position. and how you got by without it last year, but I think you just answered it with that. Chamber of Commerce, we talked about it last year. Mr. Chair, if I can, I have a couple more. Chamber of Commerce, the interaction that you had over the last year, you do a great job with reporting, but if you could maybe point out a few highlights that you worked with the Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely. So, back when it was the early days of the pandemic, we did some outreach with Rob Schlachter and his team. We were doing sort of a business update where we invited folks to join us virtually and put on little panel events with the chamber. And then when folks started coming back to the office, we've been really working closely with them on a couple of different initiatives. One in particular was a mentorship series called Passing the Torch. So that was one where we really tried to capitalize on the digital marketing that we've been able to implement over the last year. So what we were doing was bringing, somebody from the chamber, one of the experts in the field, and really pairing them up with one of our, young entrepreneurs or even, students. We started working with the National Honor Society to try to match folks up and, really kind of, I guess, not to be cheesy, but pass the torch to the next generation and try to, give some of that knowledge and pass it on. So that's a couple of things that we've been doing with the chamber. Also work with them on the STEM Council. And, I sit on the board and meet monthly with those folks. So really have a good relationship with Rob and his team over at the chamber.
If I could just add to that, we started a program a while back over at the MEDC with the punch cards for all the restaurants. And I think it may have been Councilor Dumas that said, what about the small businesses? Can we expand it from the restaurants? So we actually reached out to the chamber so we could do it as a joint effort with them. And we're going to be doubling up on the program this year in conjunction with them. And I think it's starting very shortly. And
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we just launched it this past weekend. Thank you for bringing that up.
Maybe you can describe it a lot better than I can. So how's that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we just launched that. It's actually called, many of you have probably seen the Dine Local Punch Cards that we were running over the past 6 months. And thank you to Councilor Dumas, pointed out that not only were the restaurants needing some support, but a lot of our small business folks as well. So we've actually expanded it to be, chamber members, but also just anybody in Marlborough that wants to be on the card. It's called Be Local, to really encourage shopping local, using our local services. So really excited to have that going. We're adding to the list every day. I think kind of the beauty of that is once the cards are out in the community and people see them being used, they either want to get on the card or they want to find out how they can get a card. And just giving out small incentives, things like T-shirts, gift cards once a month, to really try to encourage folks to dine, shop, and just be, quote unquote, be local.
Excellent. And the next question is related to the services that you've provided in the past with the planning needs of the city. Now, obviously, we don't have a city planner, so we depend on the people out in Boston. I can't think of their name. I was going to say the MBTA, but the
MAPC.
MAPC. I've known that name for years. But question, we're dealing with a lot of complicated development issues. The mayor asked us to hold off on new development. We have downtown development becoming questionable. What is your portion of helping us with the planning in those areas, such as getting MAPC? Do you have any portion of your budget that can help with the planning part of what we deal with for the support?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have $50,000 that we've set aside for MAPC under the city planning services. Right now, we're just finishing up a project with MAPC on Donald Lynch Boulevard. So we've, over the past couple of years, we also did the neighborhood business district, Route 20 East, which was called the Wayside District. So we'll be finishing that up over the next couple of weeks. They just presented the final report, but we do have the $50,000 for next year that is available to use for the council.
And last, it's a two-part question, it was related to how important downtown development is, as well as Lincoln Street, and we get a lot of activity that's going to happen. I guess the first question of the downtown overview is the actual Lincoln Street, Mechanic Street area. What's happening with that? You're the owner at this present time, and do we have any bites or how things going with that?
It's going really well. We actually are talking to a developer right now that's interested, in our site and also the other two adjacent sites. So we're really hoping that we're going to be able to get to the finish line with those folks and be bringing something to you folks shortly.
And last question is the farmer's market. I know it's a tough situation. It's a lot of work to get a good farmer's market off its feet and running. What do you see in the future? I know this year you're not going to be able to handle that, but do you see a...
If I could just,
sure,
no, I'll
Mr.
be
Mayor.
glad to interject here, so Meredith doesn't have to wear that hat.
Okay.
No, that usually takes place with our recreation department and the mayor's office, and we just were not able to line up the vendors this year. The big one, we need an anchor farmer, and we weren't able to secure that. They're few and far between this year, so rather than kind of break up some of the ones that are going on this year, we're going to pass on the farmer's market. It's really a great program. I'm really disappointed we won't be doing it this year, but I mean, that anchor has to be an actual farmer. But that's something that rests with the recreation department and the mayor's office.
That's fine. I didn't know if
Yep.
I thought MEDC was part of it in years past. That's why I was asking, but that's fine. I would suggest they do be part of it because they deal with our businesses and the chamber to help maybe some businesses know other businesses that could draw in some vendors for you. So, but thank you for your answers, and thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Chair, Mr. Mayor, and MEDC staff.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Any further questions for finance? Oh, Councilor Perlman, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Meredith and the MEDC team. I don't know which video screen to look at. Thank you so much for all of your work. I've really enjoyed the video series. And I have a couple of questions to ask, just a little bit more about the budget itself. The first, I think last year we discussed the lease agreement. I know it's expensive to have the place downtown. I was just wondering if, given COVID, there was any decrease in the amount that it's costing you all at the current location, or if that's something you all are still considering moving forward. I think it's great where you are located, but it does seem like a large chunk of money, so I was just curious what the conversations were.
Well, at this time, Council, we've signed a 3-year lease, so it's not something that we're discussing at the present moment, but happy to discuss that with the executive committee.
And that lease started again this year, or when does the 3-year lease go till?
It was last year, Linda.
Okay.
Is that correct? Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. And as I'm thinking of it too, just because of the comment with the farmers market, just to the mayor, I guess it could be useful to combine the summer concert series and have the farmers market before, just since people will already be in the area. I went to the Hopkinton farmers market recently, and it was pretty active, and I wonder if people are already coming for one reason, that's just another opportunity for the vendors. So just wanted to point that out as we're thinking about it.
Councilor Perlman, if I can add to that as well, I know we're talking about farmers market concert series, but MEDC, a project that we are actually involved in is the Food Truck Festival. So I don't know if anybody remembers that from 2019, but we actually just picked a date with the Food Truck Festival vendor, and we're actually expanding it this year through the downtown, the grant money that was given through the cultural district. To really make it more of a all-encompassing, vendors, and there's going to be music, and really should be a great event for folks coming in September.
No, that's really great to hear that. I know I've spoken to some members of your team, so that's really great to hear that moving forward. I'm curious as well regarding some of the outreach. Are there specific efforts, and I don't know if I saw it in the budget specifically, to contact and engage minority-owned businesses as well as women-owned businesses? Is that something as a priority for MEDC moving forward?
Absolutely. I think we reach out to all business, anybody that's in Marlborough or anybody that's looking to be in Marlborough, we would like to talk to them. There was the micro enterprise grants that we were promoting over, over the winter months. That was really targeting, some of those groups, and we were happy to try to push that out to our folks.
That's good to hear. I know we've discussed whether it's helpful to categorize some of that information about the types of businesses for just data collection and possible future grant opportunities. So that sounds like a really good avenue for future work.
Yeah, and we were really excited. One of our team members that we added in July of last year, she's actually a former ESL teacher at Marlborough Public Schools, and she's able to help us translate into different languages to try to help get the information out the best that we can.
That's really great to hear, and she's doing a wonderful job as well. And then finally, I know that, the city council is really fortunate to receive the meeting minutes from you all and to get the information. Is that something that would be available to the public in the future, or so that they better understand the infrastructure of MEDC?
I have no issue with that. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if that's something that is able to be available on the website or.
We can talk about it with the executive committee to find out if there's any legal restrictions. It doesn't follow the guidelines of the city open meeting laws, so we could double check with legal counsel on that.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful just since people have a lot of questions, and that would give them an opportunity to see what the conversations are and get excited about some of the upcoming projects.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that I have, and thank you so much for your time.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And MEDC is one of the great assets to the community. And Meredith, you're doing an outstanding job with your team. I do have some questions with the page that talks about economic development funding. It looks like there was a significant drop in state aid, in 2020 and into 2021. Do you see that as a temporary aberration, or is that something that's going to be more of the new norm?
If I can kind of address that, Counselor, I think, are you talking about the revenue coming into the city revolving account?
No, state aid economic development funding, so I'm not sure.
We take all of the money that comes in for economic development in the city comes from our rooms taxes.
Okay.
So over the last year, it's dropped substantially. We've seen a substantial decrease. There is still enough in there for our funding, and there's actually some surplus.
Right.
But all that revenue there, so will it be going up next year? Sure hope so,
Right.
But that will be dependent on travel and getting the hockey tournaments back up and everything else. But it all comes in from our rooms taxes.
Okay, so, and the tax.
Set up by you.
Right, and the taxes get paid to the state, and the state gives it back to us.
Right, and
That's why it's called
accepted
state
that
aid.
local option tax.
Yes.
And that's what that revolving account is.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification on that. I appreciate that. Okay. Yep.
Counselor, we certainly hope that the money will be going up if we're doing our job correctly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I will second that. Motion has been made and seconded to approve order number 21-100-8313, MEDC FY 2022 operating budget in the amount of $546,738. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It carries. Thank you. It carries 5-0. Thank you, councilors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? We are adjourned at 7:18 p.m. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.